Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is the first video in a new series where I am talking about living in small spaces. So if you're new here, you may not know, but my family and I live in a mobile home. So we're in around 1,000 square feet and we have a family of 4. So I thought it might be helpful to go through and show you a few areas where we've been able to maximize space and minimize the items that we own. So I'm actually going to start in the kitchen. I'm going to show you some of our drawers. I'm going to show you in some of the cabinets and just show you a few of the changes that we've made with our things, a few of the changes we've made in the house to really make this space work well for us. If you do like this video, I would love if you guys would give it a thumbs up, and let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so as we go into the organization of the kitchen, there's a couple things I want to share with you that you may not know about living in a small space. The first thing is that you can do it and you can accomplish it by only using your favorite things. The other thing that I'll share with you and that some people may leave out is sometimes those drawers and cabinets have to be a little full. So in some of these, you'll see that. All right, so let's start with this drawer. So this drawer is where I keep all of our foil, our plastic wrap, all that kind of stuff. I don't have one of those really pretty organizers that you get, where it's all wood and nice. I might get one of those at some point, but I have the things that I need. Honestly, I try to not use this stuff that much. I try to use reusable containers a lot, but when I need them, they're here. I keep chip clips here. These are from IKEA and they are my absolute favorite. I don't actually have that many in here right now because I use them all the time, and most of them are in use in the pantry or in the freezer. They're all over the place. But anyway, there's just an overview. I also have some charging cords in that same container. And then lastly, I have some push pins that I sometimes use on our cork board. All right, so we're going to move to the drawer next door. All right, so this is a utensil drawer, and this is basically everything that is not a spoon or a fork or a knife. So when we got married and we registered and had showers, we actually got 2 utensil organizers. I have some things in here that I need to vacuum up apparently. But we ended up just using one for this kind of utensils, and we've always done that. But I don't know why this little space here, I always actually had this turned around, and I had that space all the way at the back of the drawers in all of our previous homes. And it just did not make sense. And sometime along the way in our last house, I realized, wait a minute. And I turned it around and I thought, oh, this makes so much more sense. So let's start over on the left-hand side. These are all of my ugly utensils. These are things that I don't want to part with, but I don't want them to be out in the crock with everything else because I don't like how they look. I don't like how the black kind of brings the kitchen down. So I keep them here. I have 2 sets of measuring cups. I actually just recently moved these here. They were in an upper cabinet, and I decided it made more sense to have them with all my other measuring things. Here are my measuring spoons. I actually do have one more set in the dishwasher, and I don't mind having a lot because I use them so much. So these are 2 of those Pampered Chef scrapers to use for cleaning stoneware, and I do have several stone pieces, so I just keep those here. And then this is a fine mesh strainer. I really just use this when I'm making like teas and I use cloves and things that I need to strain out. So there are my lids and rings, and I just use those a lot. All right, in this house, one of the inconvenient things is we do not have a junk drawer. If you'll remember, we removed some cabinets, and in those cabinets were drawers, and so we lost some of that space. So the utilitarian part of the kitchen still needs a little bit of work, and that's something that I hope to do in the coming months. So as I was looking at these knives, it just hit me. Sometimes when you really take a second to look at a space, you're like, wait a minute, why do I have that? Honestly, we really never have a reason to have 5 steak knives. Some people do, and we just don't. We just don't really make food that uses a steak knife that often. So I found a knife that belonged to my mother-in-law. I sent that back to her. I just kept 3 of those steak knives, and I'm totally fine with that. Here are a couple of pie servers, brownie servers, casserole servers, things like that. A couple of these were my grandmother's, and so they're really cute and really special. And then next to that, this is just an assortment. Some little like spreaders, the ice cream scoop, vegetable peeler, just an assortment of things that fits nicely in this little spot. That's a Pampered Chef thing that I use to shred chicken. And then these are some kid-safe knives that I got from Amazon. They're really, really great, and I'll link those down below. And then over here, again, just a couple of different things that fit. It's not hugely organized, but it's organized enough where I can find the things that I need. It's full, but that's okay. All right, moving from the drawers to the lower cabinets. So these cabinets actually feature a half shelf on the top. So I had these configured entirely differently whenever we first moved in. I thought that I wanted all my small appliances across the way in the banquette, and you'll hear me talk about that.
Looking at the top shelf, this top shelf only goes about half deep. I have actually considered making a drawer pull and getting rid of this little partition here, and then making this a full pull-out drawer and then a pull-out drawer here. The only issue with that would be I would lose my height storage. So things like this is borderline, the kettle, that would keep me from sliding all the way out. Also, of course, the lid of the Instant Pot is too tall for that. So anyway, that's just some kind of ponderings in my head. These, I want to do some sort of hook or something here or on the inside of the door. But for right now, they're just laying here. If you watched my Christmas videos, you might remember that I did have them up in this cabinet. I also had them in there with these trivets and with these cutting boards. So clearly these all found new homes. All right, so these small appliances were actually in the banquette seat, and I just found that I was having to reach for them way too often. Whereas some things like my brownie pans, my cookie pans, my bundt pan, I don't really reach for those as often. So I put these things here and I moved the pans there, and it has been such a good change. This, for example, was at the very bottom, and I would have to pull everything out of the banquette every time I wanted to use the griddle, and it was just a big headache. So on the top shelf, I have my Instant Pot, I have my crock pot, and I have my toaster. So none of those things stay out all the time. I use them and then I wash them and put them back. Like I said, I've got the cutting boards here. I keep my blender here. This is my yogurt strainer. I make yogurt a couple of times a month. And then this is just a stack of nesting glass bowls that have lids. I actually can throw one of them out because for years I've been missing the second to largest size. And I don't know where it went, but it's been gone a long time. So I think I can go ahead and let this lid go. I have my electric tea kettle here and two little ceramic trivets there. And then in the back here, I have some food storage things. These are like yogurt and soup containers. This is the funnel that I use to refill things in our kitchen, and you'll get to see that in an upcoming video. I store our immersion blender back here, and the cup for that's actually in the fridge because I just used that. Here's some random food storage things. There's a tea pitcher, and then there are two serving platters there that I don't reach for very often, but they're there if I need them. And that's that.
All right, so now we're going to move to the upper cabinets. So this cabinet really houses our everyday dishes and food storage dishes. So I mentioned that I really don't like to use the plastic wrap and saran wrap and foil, except for when I have to. These glass dishes up on the top are my absolute favorite. Honestly, probably the thing that we have used most from our wedding registry. When people ask me what should I register for, I tell them some sort of glass container like this. You can store leftovers in them. They don't stain. They don't hold odor. They can heat up. They can go in the dishwasher. They're just incredible. I also keep little Tupperware containers here for the kids' snacks and things like that. All right, now down here, these are kind of our everyday dishes. We do have another set of dishes that was kind of our wedding china, and we keep that across on the banquette wall, and we have like open shelving there. But this is just Corelle dishes, little kids' dishes, all of that kind of stuff. All right, now this cabinet is where I have our spices. I initially thought to put them in a skinny cabinet, and you'll see that here in a little bit. Honestly, I just didn't have enough space. I have that shelf riser for all of my spices, and it expands, and I just have too many spices. I like to make too many things, and I didn't have room in the skinny cabinet. I have a set of nesting bowls up here, and then I have another one just sitting on top. It doesn't look the best. It probably won't stay this way forever, but it works fine. And then above the stove, I have a couple of different Lazy Susans that just have various ingredients for baking and for making sauces. If you'll notice, I have a lot of these wire risers, and that's one of my biggest tips for living in a small space. My yeast, all of my small short spices, and onion soup packets, ranch packets all go there. I keep toothpicks in this little cup for baking, and then behind that I have all of my muffin tin cups and all of my cake type things. I have a couple of random essential oils there. Again, it's not overly organized, but it's organized enough. It works just fine for me. And here's another one of those risers. This cabinet I'm struggling with. It's not tall enough to use the risers, and we just have a lot of glasses and cups. Okay, let's move on to the silverware drawer. So if you'll notice, we used the skinny drawer for silverware. This was actually the junk drawer whenever my grandma lived here. She had screwdrivers and hammers and scissors and all sorts of things, and this functioned as her junk drawer. I actually saw this silverware organizer in a Facebook buy-sell group, and I thought, if that worked, that would really allow me to save so much space. So I will say, it takes some learning because you cannot see the tip of the utensil. So you have to just learn where they are. You have to just go into it knowing that. I will also say that sometimes if you have a lot of silverware, if you have a lot of forks, a lot of spoons, sometimes putting them in, you sort of have to push them a little bit. You can see here in the forks category, it's giving me just a little bit of resistance pushing it in there. The other thing is, obviously you don't have room for big spoons, little spoons, big forks, little forks. So I just look at the length of the handle. I can tell that that is a short fork and that this is a long fork, if that makes sense. But now I've learned this and it doesn't really bother me. So all that saying, if you don't have a compact space, this might not be a good solution for you, but this really might be a good thing for you if you're trying to save space. Back here at the back of this drawer, we just have some kid utensils. At this point in our life, we don't need kid utensils. They can use what we use. But if we have family or friends come over and this would make their eating experience easier and more convenient, I'm happy to have them here. And then I just have a couple of serving things for like cheese balls and things that I don't use very often back there. I have our straws here in this little caddy, and I just went through that because we had so many and we didn't need them all. And then back there where you see that tractor utensil, those are forks and spoons that are real silverware, but they're just a little smaller, and that's what the kids primarily use. And I will show you here, this brand is Joseph. And again, if there's an Amazon link for this, I will put it down below. This cabinet is another one that I really love how we transformed it. It had another one of those half shelves like you saw over with the small appliances. And I actually had my dad remove it because I knew that I wanted to store my baking pans and my muffin tins here, but I wanted to store them vertically. Storing your pans this way is so nice because you can get things out one at a time and you don't have to move everything because it's all stacked on top of one another. And again, I'm just using one of those wire type of dividers to make it easier to move things in and out. As we swing around to this side of the kitchen, if you'll remember, there were upper and lower cabinets here, and it was nice to have the storage, but it wasn't practical to have a 4-seater table and to have that storage. So we put in this banquette, we put in some shelving up there, and this really has worked well as it can for such a small space. So let me take you and show you what's in each of the banquettes. All right, so in the first bench, honestly, if it looks like kind of a hodgepodge, it's because it is, but I don't have to access these items nearly as often. This is the area where I said I did have our small appliances, and I just reversed. Everything that was in that cabinet, I put here, and everything that was here, I put in that cabinet. This has definitely been some trial and error, and I think that it will continue to improve the more that we figure out what things we need and use and what things we don't. But for right now, it's just kind of been in this state. So we are on well water, and we kind of want to get it tested and see, is it safe to drink? So we have that Brita pitcher that we might eventually one day use. Right now we just buy jug drinking water. All right, so moving over here, I have these 2 wooden serving things, but honestly, I don't use those on a day-to-day basis. I use them when I am serving and entertaining. So I moved them here. I also have all of our casserole dishes, our Pyrex. I have a 9x9 and I have 2 9x13s, and so those live there. I have a couple of loaf pans. I have my bundt pan, another bundt pan. I have a couple of like brownie pans and cake pans. And then over here, my husband used to do pour over coffee. He hasn't in a while, but we still have the stuff. So here it is. I've just got the filter stored there with it. This is a larger lunchbox that we use about once a week. And then underneath that, we have our Belgian waffle maker. Oh yes, and this is the trivet that goes inside the Instant Pot. Honestly, I don't use it very often for what I use the Instant Pot for. And it just gets in the way in that other cabinet. It falls over and things. So I keep it here and I know where it is if and when I need it. All right, so that is the first banquette bench. Let's move to the second one. So the second one is basically our homeschool and craft storage. So it's a lot. It's organized, it's loosely organized, but there's just a lot in here. I probably could go in and condense some. So over on the left, I have kind of some sketchbooks, some watercolor paper, things like that. I have a container of magnets. And then the way that these bins go is this one is for painting, for paints, for watercolors. And see, these watercolors are supposed to be over here. So we just need to do a little organizing. This bin is supposed to be for coloring books and for crayons, anything like that. And then the next one is supposed to be stickers, sticker books, stamps, rubber stamp pads. And then this one is just supposed to be random craft supplies. So again, it's not perfectly organized. It definitely needs some work, but I know where everything goes. Everything kind of has a place. And then when we're done using it, out of sight, out of mind.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. It brings me a lot of joy to share this space and to share how it is ever evolving, always changing. And really the goal is just to serve our family well and to take care of the house well. If I'm doing both of those things, then I feel like we're doing okay. Anything that I mentioned that does have an Amazon link, I will link down below. I don't have an Amazon store, but I know that those things can be helpful to you guys. So I will link that down below if you find that helpful. Thank you guys so much for coming along and for watching this video, and I will talk to you in the next one.